This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
There is no perfect candidate. I wish we all could understand that. I wish every American voter understood that. There's no perfect candidate. I'm an old guy. I know I look like I'm super young, right? I look like I'm 32 years old. I'm not 32. I'm an old guy. I've been around a while. I don't know that I've ever voted for a candidate I thought was perfect. I don't know. I don't think I've ever voted for a candidate who I agreed with on everything. I don't think I ever have voted for a candidate who I absolutely loved and adored. I don't believe I've ever voted for a candidate whose position on every single issue I supported. I don't think I've ever voted for a candidate who both inspired me, moved me, educated me, had a great personality, was a great speaker, was funny, was real, drank tequila like I do. There's no perfect candidate. Again, this may piss some of you off. In my lifetime, when it comes to presidential candidates, the candidate that came the closest to who I am and what I believe politically was Ronald Reagan. The candidate who I most adored, probably the candidate for whom, in my life, presidential candidate, for whom I most voted for was Reagan. Again, guys, don't roll your eyes at me. You know who I am politically. I'm not a Democrat. But forget that. Here's my point. There's no perfect candidate. You will not love most of the candidates you vote for. It is a rare candidate that you would walk barefoot across a field of broken glass to help get elected. Those sorts of inspirational candidates come around every now and then. I know a lot of people felt that way about Obama. They're rare. It's a rare thing. Generally, we're voting for candidates who we generally pretty much agree with. Generally, we're voting against candidates. I mean, again, for me, this is a perfect example. I'm voting against Donald Trump. I like a lot of what Biden's done, but I'm voting against Donald Trump. I don't want Donald Trump in the White House again. That's okay. If that's my motivation, that's okay. It's okay to vote against the other guy because you believe the other guy is a threat to our democracy. That's okay. I do a lot of public speaking. Recently, I've done a lot of public speaking in front of Gen Z groups, young Americans, 18, 29 years old. They're not happy with this choice, Trump, Biden. They don't like Trump. They think Trump's just a psychopath and a bad guy. But they all have a litany of complaints about Biden. Too old, bad on Israel, hasn't done enough on this or that, can't communicate, doesn't inspire me, doesn't move me. Even Gen Z voters who are young Americans who are center left, not at all happy with, excited about, motivated to go run through a wall to vote for Biden. My message to these young Americans is always the same. Tough. So what? It's a rare candidate that you'd run through a fucking wall for to help get elected. There's no perfect candidate. You're not going to agree with Joe Biden on everything. Joe Biden is old. Too old for me, too old for you. Yeah. Joe Biden's not inspiring. Joe Biden's not motivating. Joe Biden's not a great communicator. So what? It's a choice, guys. Plain and simple, it's a choice. You have a choice to sit out, I tell these young Americans, but it's a choice. You have a choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It's a choice. And if, again, on the scale of 1 to 10, this is what I tell young folks. If 10 is a candidate that you would in fact run through a wall for because you love, adore the perfect candidate, you agree with that candidate on everything. If that's a 10 and 1 is a horrible candidate, a threat to our democracy, I don't agree with that candidate on anything. If that's our range, well, young people, where would you place Donald Trump? And generally, most young people place Trump as down 1, 2, or 3. Where do you place Joe Biden on that spectrum? 10, the most perfect candidate. 1, a threat to our democracy, an abhorrent candidate. Trump's a 1, 2, or 3 to these young people. Biden, for most of them, is a 4, 5, or 6, maybe a 7. Okay, there you go. Donald Trump is a 1. Biden's a 4 or 5. Who are you voting for? Who's better? Who are you voting for? And by the way, that difference, if you believe 1 is an abhorrent candidate, a horrible person, a threat to our democracy, if that's a 1, I'd vote for a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 over that. If Joe Biden's a 4 or a 5 for you, that's way better than someone who's a 1, who is an utterly abhorrent candidate. It's a choice. And this year, young Americans, I tell them, you don't have a choice between a 10 and a 1. Joe Biden's not a 10 for probably hardly anybody. But so what? In your lifetime, you may vote for 1 or 2 number 10s, perfect candidates in your entire lifetime. And it's a choice. It's a choice. So get off of that. He's not perfect. Get off of that. I disagree with him on 50% of issues. You disagree with Trump on 99% of all issues. It's a choice. Make a choice. This applies to all of us. We all have to grow up and make a choice and realize there's not a perfect candidate, but especially young Americans. Grow up. It's a choice, and it's a choice to sit out if you'd like. But understand, if you sit out, that may help. That may well help someone who is an abhorrent candidate, who's a threat to our democracy, get elected. Do you want to do that? Come on now, grow up. It's a choice. I'm Joe Walsh. Thanks for listening. Joe Walsh, whiteflag@gmail.com. All one word, Joe Walsh, whiteflag@gmail.com. Be brave. Thanks.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.